Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sync Up Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things OneDrive. OneDrive is the home for all of the files that you care about most, and we are here to take you behind the scenes to get the insights and the knowledge to make your experience and your users' experience better. My name is Stephen Rice, and I'm a Principal Product Manager on the OneDrive team. And as always, I am joined by my friend and co-host and OneDrive aficionado, Arvind Mishra.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arvind, and I'm also a Principal Product Manager on the OneDrive team. Before we get started, I want to encourage everyone to check out our newsletter at aka.ms/OneDrive/join. So, Stephen, I want to take a second here to acknowledge that today is our first video-based episode of Sync Up. And I got to say, I'm a little unnerved. I mean, I've never done a video podcast. I know you're an expert at doing all things podcast. I have a face that is optimized for radio. I'm a little scared. How's this going to go?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see how much we can fix you up in post, get some editing. Maybe we'll put in I'm thinking 85% of our budget into Arvind's, face special effects, but
well spent.
We'll see what happens. Now, before we get too far, the other call out we got to make is this should be coming out right before the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. We would love to have you all there. Hopefully, you've already got it scheduled. You're interested. Check out the OneDrive blog for more information. I will be there. I'm looking forward to talking to all of you and seeing who's there. Hopefully, we got some cool swag to give out too, which is always fun. Now, we've got some great topics today. We've got Vishal and Yogesh here to join us and talk about some cool things. We're going to start with an ad read about some totally valid, real products that you can buy right now. And then we'll jump into our main topic today, which is migration. But to start with, Vishal, Yogesh, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Woo! Yeah, thanks for having us. Hello, everyone. My name is Vishal Lodha. I'm the Principal Customer Experience Program Manager here in OneDrive and SharePoint team at Microsoft.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen and Arvind, for having us. My name is Yogesh. I am also a product manager on the OneDrive and SharePoint team, and I lead the migration tech for ODSP.
Cool. Before we get started, Arvind, did you not tell them the dress code? I feel like you and I are setting the correct tone, and they are both dressed way nicer than you and I are.
I think because they actually meet with real people as opposed to just other Microsofties who are also real people, but a different kind of real person. And so I think that because they're out in the wild, they have to, represent.
I mean, I guess I feel like you go to customers, you meet them with, good t-shirts, and that's all you need, right? Vishal, confirm?
I mean, I was going to say, that's an interesting thing, Vishal. If you go and you meet with a t-shirt company, are you still dressing in a jacket? And Yogesh, are you wearing a collared shirt, or do you actually wear a t-shirt?
My answer is, this is my uniform. I come from technical sales. And so, it's a indication of commitment, whether it is pre-sales, post-sales, deployment, consumption. So this keeps me grounded and obsessed with customers.
Yeah, my answer is very simple. I have very limited wardrobe choices, and I have a growing son who borrows my clothes. So I think I wear what comes first.
Hey, I mean, whatever works.
That's awesome. I love it. What a level of professionalism. Thank God we have you guys out there leading the way. So,
raising the bar for our first video podcast.
Indeed.
Okay. So before we get started, we always like to kick things off with a little bit of fun, kind of an icebreaker question for our guests and for ourselves. So as we're recording this, it is spring break time here in the US. So question for the three of you. Vishal, you can start, but where do you most want to visit? Budget is no consideration. What's your choice?
Yeah. Not sure how many people will agree with this, but I have a very unique set of parameters. Anywhere it's warm, but between 70 and 80 degrees, breeze, and not a lot of sun.
Not a lot of sun.
So where in the world would that be then? Because I feel like I go to extremes.
I think Hawaii would cut the mark because it's consistently between 70 and 80s. It's breezy. There's clouds. It rains, but not that much compared to other parts. And so I just feel like too much anything above 80s, I get sunburned easily. And so I enjoy. If I'm on vacation, I want to enjoy.
I too suffer from that affliction. Arvind, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would love to go to Egypt at some point because I'm a hound for like old buildings, old cultures, things that have outwitted, humanity in general. And so I feel like, the pyramids and a lot of things that are going on there would be well worth seeing. So that's on my bucket list right now. Yogesh, what about you?
Yeah, so I cannot agree with Vishal more. Living in Pacific Northwest, I'm so starved for sunshine, but not too much sunshine because I'm not used to too much sunshine. So I also prefer a kind of a partially cloudy day over a too bright day, and Hawaii is definitely my kind of go-to place.
Man, Steven, what about you? Like,
you all took this way more literally. So I'm thinking I want to go on a vacation that has no budget and I can do like my perfect experience. Have you guys seen the space balloon? Like it's it's like, I don't know, like $500,000 or something absurd, but it takes you up in
and you can eat a meal up there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about the meal, but like I would love to do like low Earth orbit trip. And this is where like not in the like Bezos and I want to own a rocket company. Like I just want to take some space tourism, see the stars, see the planet. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but that's my dream vacation. Oh, and safely because it's not exactly a reliable method of travel.
You don't want to be first on this balloon, I would say. I think those are all good aspirations, and these are all great answers. And so I'm sure the audience now has a great sense of who all of us are. So today, before we get into the meat of today's discussion, we've got a word from our sponsor. M365 Basic is our consumer subscription offering that offers OneDrive storage and some Outlook features. And we're now adding advanced security features for existing subscribers for the low price of free. So, Steven, I don't know if you're ready. Let's see how this ad read goes.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed how we're all just storing our lives in the cloud now? I mean, where is the cloud? Is it in my house? Is it above me? Does it ever rain data? Is my data secure? And what happens when it's sunny? Does my cloud disappear?
I mean, you're totally right, Steven. I've been storing all of my personal stuff in OneDrive with a basic subscription with its 100 gigabytes of storage and ad-free Outlook and advanced email security features, and it's pretty much fitting my needs. But now with these new features, it's like my documents, my photos, my files, they're like living in a luxury condo up there. Ransomware protection, it's like having a digital bodyguard for my vacation photos. Like I'm picturing a bouncer who's like, "Don't worry, sir, I've got your selfies covered."
I mean, sounds nice. And this whole like personal vault thing, why do my files get a vault? I don't even have a vault for my actual important things. My files are living better than I am.
And these file sharing links, I mean, you can set them to expire. I mean, it's sort of like telling your friends, yeah, you can borrow my lawnmower, but it's going to disappear in 48 hours. So good luck with that.
And don't get me started on offline access. So my files can just come with me wherever I go, even if I'm in a cave or on a beach in Hawaii. Don't worry about it. We'll just hang out with you in this no service zone.
Steven, we're just two simple guys trying to make sense of this digital hoarding world. And we're just trying to do this one bite at a time.
And you know what? At the end of the day, aren't we all just trying to find a safe cloud to store our digital clutter? That is what Microsoft 365 Basic is for you. All right. Let's move on.
I don't think we're going to win any awards for that, but well done.
Thank you. I think that was a delightful ad read. It was totally natural. But seriously, we work on OneDrive. We work on all of the kind of plans and stuff like that. So check out Microsoft 365 Basic for your cloud computing needs. But let's switch over to our main topic. We've dragged Vishal and Yogesh here on video to talk about migration. So let's kind of get things started. So just to kind of kick things off, Vishal or Yogesh, where does this come from in the first place? Why are customers looking at Microsoft 365 and trying to migrate?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, cloud computing is becoming a super important part of our lives, as you just talked, both personal and professional, or consumer and enterprise. Of course, Yogesh and I focused a lot on enterprise side, so we'll cover that part. And that includes basically, business customers like small, medium, SMB customers as well. A lot of them are, obviously migrating, or I should say, consolidating on Microsoft 365. As the businesses formed and evolved, they were using a lot of best of breed tool. And once things started to mature in the market, our platform offered a lot of integration, seamless collaboration between the apps, great security and compliance feature. We started to become top choice for our customers, especially enterprise. 95% of the Fortune customers use Microsoft 365, and so it's just we have seen a tremendous amount of growth just because of the integrated platform offering that we have. And for customers, it's total cost of ownership to manage that platform, to manage those service towers. They all come down to a significant point. So it's a combination of productivity, security, compliance, integration effect, as well as financials and economics.
So Vishal, so what I'm hearing, at least there's a lot of things in there, but like let's break it apart. So a bunch of customers, they start out maybe as a small company in a garage, and they're using all kinds of tools, like one tool for chat, one tool for video, one tool for storage, one different tool for calculating, like calculator. And so they come to your door and they're like, hey, can you, we're getting big, right? Or we're at a certain size and we can't manage all these tools. Is that sort of like a common use case scenario?
Yeah, definitely. That becomes a compelling event, and there are customers who were not necessarily small to start with, but they came from the on-prem world. So they had, a lot of servers that were used for collaboration on-prem and applications. And as those start, shifting to cloud, that paradigm shift happens, the mindset changes. And so it comes together irrespective of what journey a customer is following, whether it's a natural growth and maturity or a mature customer just adopting more and more of cloud and software as a services platform. It comes together.
Awesome. So to kind of kick things off, I want to play a little bit of a game. Have you guys ever seen the show Mythbusters? I mean, I feel like it's a little old at this point. But they're like, the whole idea was they would take a myth, like a bowl in a china shop. Do bowls actually break china if you put them into a shop? And then they test it and find out if it's the case or not. So when I think about migration is complicated, or feels complicated. And I know a lot of customers feel that way too. So let's run through some of the biggest myths we hear from our customers about migration. And we can see, do they hold up? Is it true? Is it not? Busted? Is it confirmed? Arvind, do you want to take our first myth?
Yes, I would love to take our first myth. So we just talked about this. We touched on it, Vishal. So I think there is a lot of people out there that believe that migrations to the M365 cloud and suite, they're only for on-prem customers or cross-tenant migrations. Like that's what people think. Is that true or not?
Yeah, that's definitely how it started, but it's not true anymore, Arvind. So I would bust your first myth here, right here. We see a huge amount of customers coming from third-party cloud storage providers. And that has become a pretty growing trend right now for the same reason that Vishal mentioned before, where customers are trying to consolidate. They're trying to do more with less in this tight economy. And Microsoft is often the right solution and applies to the scenario you mentioned, Arvind, where a company is growing up and they are already on cloud, but now they want to move to a more consolidated, more secured and compliant solution. In fact, I worked for a startup a few years ago, and we moved to Microsoft, and it was a big deal. But when it was done, we were pretty happy. And so we do move from the third-party cloud storage providers just as much we do from on-prem. So I'll bust that. Vishal, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you covered it really well. Yeah, it's people think like, oh, we're already on cloud. Why do we need to, consider a change? And I think because of the reasons I said before, managing individual platforms for a very specific function becomes a lot of overhead for a lot of IT departments. I talked to a lot of CIOs and CTOs, and they're trying to consolidate not just in terms of operations, but also reducing the overhead and management of platforms and things like that. And then, of course, the productivity is a big thing. I mean, imagine your workflow when you're switching your windows, you're going for your calling or conference calls on a one tool and then going for a chat for another tool. And then you are going for your productivity commodity apps like, spreadsheets or, authoring documents on like, it's not seamless. Where the Microsoft, starting with Office apps and tight integration with our cloud, you can start a document, share it right there through your cloud workflows. Your recipients get the documents, the co-authoring starts, the notifications happen, all within the entire family of products that's part of this platform. So it's pretty seamless. You really don't have to, leave and, juggle multiple platforms or windows to get this thing done.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've definitely learned doing this podcast is, we've talked about a bunch of different topics from sharing to web to sync. But even then, it's hard for us to talk about just OneDrive because some of the amazing things that M365 offers just come from our partners inside of Microsoft that make the experience better.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, it's the glue that puts it all together, Stephen.
Ooh, I like that. Glue. Hopefully you don't eat the glue, though. That's maybe bad. Don't eat the cloud.
But you can.
Myth number 2. So this is another one I hear quite often. It's like, hey, I am a small business. I've got like 10 licenses. I've got 25 customer or employees. I don't need to migrate, right? Like Microsoft's too complicated. The tools aren't going to work for a company like me. True or not?
Well, I'll take a shot at debunking this myth. It's actually even more important for smaller companies. They don't have the grander IT budgets compared to the large organizations. So, and they don't have the headcount to manage some of the IT infrastructure. So moving to a unified, consolidated platform even makes more sense. Again, as I said, definitely economically, but from a security, compliance, productivity, integration between different applications, it's even more productive because smaller organizations are being asked to do more with less as much as bigger ones are. So they really actually people in smaller orgs do multiple roles and sometimes wear multiple hats. So they need to be more productive, more efficient. And I'm not saying the largest don't have to be, but it's critically important for them as well as any other organization.
Does Microsoft?
I would think I was going to say, as a startup, like you kind of just want to spend more of your time building your product versus trying to make the things that enable you to build your product work better together. And so I could totally see, just having a suite of products that just work really well together. It's going to just make you that much more productive. And just from I was just thinking from like an overhead perspective, if you've got, 10 different products, one bill shows up, on the 10th of the month, another bill shows up at the 20th of the month, and then another one's on the 24th. It's kind of a headache to probably manage all of that, right? And so just having all of that in one place feels like it'd be a huge win, even for a small company.
Absolutely. And Arvind, to that effect, we have been putting a lot of emphasis to empathize with the smaller tenants, smaller customers, because they don't have the IT horsepower to manage the complexity of migration, which we acknowledge is still a big deal. So we have been doubling down to simplify our migration expenses so that an IT admin in a small shop, whom we call an accidental admin, this person is not really an admin, but they have been tasked to do this migration. It could be a teacher who is relatively tech savvy in a school, right? And we want to serve her as well. And that has been a lot of focus for us in the migration team, not just within OneDrive SharePoint, but across mail and other workloads.
You preempted my question, Yogesh, but I was going to say, like, sub-myth for this one, I can see people listening, customers, like, wait a second. I'm a small business. Vishal is wearing a suit. Clearly, Microsoft does not care about us. If you cared about me, you would wear, relatable clothing like T-shirts, like Arvind and I. Clearly, Vishal, do we care about these small customers? Do we want to make sure our experiences work for them?
Absolutely. We care. Same. Look at the Microsoft, offerings. Like, if you go back 10 years, if you had an enterprise product, it was almost impossible for a small business or a nonprofit to enjoy the same level of features and services like an enterprise product. Here we're talking about Fortune 10 companies using the same technology and features compared to a 50-person nonprofit. I think Microsoft has democratized this whole process by giving everyone the same productivity levers, irrespective of how many people you have on your payroll or how much revenue you bring to the company or your organization. So it's totally like, and our licensing model is very flexible. Like we offer bundled SKUs and we also offer individuals, so customers can pick and choose what meet their needs, and they can still be doing best in class work here.
I love it, Vishal. As you said, you are just, what's the phrase? Like always be selling, ABS?
ABC, always be close.
ABC.
I think so. Always be closing.
That's why I'm a PM and Vishal does the closing.
Got the suit. Okay.
Myth number 3. So one of the things I think people worry about when they think about migrating content into the cloud is throttling. We've got tons, gigabytes and gigabytes of data in our on-prem installation, in our, competitor cloud, whatever it might be. And it's, if I try and move that all into Microsoft, I'm going to get throttled and the experience is going to be awful. Throttling is a terrible thing. Is that the case? Tell me a little bit more about throttling. Is this actually the demon in that cloud? My analogy is not working, that people think it is.
Well, if I had a choice, I would print a T-shirt. That way I can get rid of my sports coat and you don't call me out again. But I'll say throttling is safe. I think that's the new, paradigm shift that we need to bring a change. And like I consider throttling as a fuse in my electric box or a circuit breaker. Basically, what does that mean is, obviously the cloud is a multi-tenancy service. We have a concept of neighborhood here, and throttling exists to prevent a noisy neighbor actually to prevent them bothering other neighbors, right? What we don't want is one customer migrate into our service and it impacts other customers and their end users and their, of course, end user experience. So what we do is we kind of basically provide throttling as a mechanism to protect other customers, other service, and make sure customers take fair advantage of what they're going to get out of service. Yogesh, maybe anything you want to add here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will bust this myth further by reframing the mental model. It's throttling is like a speed limit. And you don't say, I didn't reach the destination because of the speed limit. And that's how we look at as throttling. Speed limit exists for safety, like Vishal said. It also helps you plan. And our best recommendation for customers and the customers who successfully migrate are those who plan really well. And our partners, including the ISV partners who really excel at offering a great throughput, are those who follow best practices. In some ways, they're planning through that speed limit that we have set in place for the right reason. So throttling is not death. Throttling is there for safety and to actually help you move at the optimal speed. In fact, I would say migration has the most lenient throttling limit of all other applications, because we realize that this is a big pipe and we need to enable the capacity that it deserves compared to like an end user trying to stream videos over video, right? That person or that particular scenario would be far more throttled than a legitimate migration happening during a weekend.
So maybe I would think about it in 3 ways. Like, number 1, if you're a customer that is migrating your stuff in there, if you plan well ahead and you do the correct planning, you're not even going to really encounter throttling. And once you are a customer and all of your data is in there, you are going to be happy that we have throttling, is maybe how I would think about it. Because you just don't want your quality of service to be impacted by the noisy neighbor that Vishal was calling out.
Absolutely. I would add one more thing, Arvind, here is it starts with throttling concern because that's the most obvious one. Often the bottlenecks are different. Like if you're moving from on-prem, it's the reading from your on-prem sources is what throttles you more or bottlenecks you more than anything else. When you're pulling data out of third-party storage providers, it's the source throttling that you need to worry more and plan again ahead of it and ask for the right API rate limit with your incumbent storage providers. So goes back to the planning, and it seems obvious, and that's why people worry about it. But there are some of the non-obvious things that Vishal and I help customers with. Think about it beforehand. so they're not surprised.
Yeah, and if I can add one more thing, our tech has really evolved over the last few years to give a lot more, signal to customers or the tooling they're using to migrate in terms of when they can send us more data and when they need to slow down. Like we give that information through our, APIs and retry after header, things like that. So the tools have become smart enough on both the ends to have the right amount of handshake at any given time to get the pipe going consistently. And if there's an imbalance, then we send those signals and recalibration happens. And so, the balance is, kind of, or it's rebalancing happens, and we're back in business. So I think it's a good thing. Our ISVs are really taking advantage of some of the signals that we send through the API mechanism. And again, as Yogesh said, if you plan it right and if you know the information architecture on data, I think throttling will happen. I'm not saying that it will not happen, but it's going to be minimal as long as the planning and the spread of that data is looking good.
What I'm getting out of all of this, because I'm not a technical person, is that migrations are kind of a big deal. That said, this is myth number 4. I've heard that migrations can take years. Is that true or not?
Vishal, you want to take that since you work with really large migrations? Yeah, I mean, there's no one size that fit all. Like, smaller customers, migration will likely not take years unless all they have is petabytes of data between 25 users, which we have never seen, very rarely. But in general, I wouldn't say it would take years. The largest customer I've worked with has probably gone a little about a year, but they have gotten consistent throughput on a weekly basis. And I always tell customers, you should be migrating all the time. Maybe some during daytime, more during nighttime, even more during weekends, but don't stop migrations. Your waves should be back to back. Anytime you stop migrations, you're leaving money on the table. What do I mean by that is, customers have capacity that they can use 24/7 around the clock. And that capacity is dynamic in nature. So every time there's a pause, you're actually missing out on your capacity or migration quota. And so as long as the migration waves are planned, they're back to back, there's not large gaps, I would debunk this myth again that it will not take years.
Mm-hmm. And for long running migrations is often the change management that delays the process than the technology. And change management is hard. People are hard, and there are just so many complexities large IT admins have to navigate through. And that is often the reason for long-running migrations. Mergers and acquisitions are another reason why, sometimes you get a perception that the migrations are ongoing. It's just because they finished one wave and now there is another coming. Sometimes customers intentionally spread out their migration by departments, and, certain departments just need that much time. So that's another reason. But yeah, we have seen migrations finishing within months more than migrations finishing over 1 year.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Gotcha. And go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
I am definitely sensing a theme in a lot of these myths that, sure, things can be rocky, but if you're making a plan ahead of time, you're thinking through the challenges, whether it's how to get your data into the cloud, whether it is when to migrate, how to migrate, what tools to use, which we'll talk about in a moment, how to adjust your users to it. It really starts to feel like the issue is not the mechanics of the migration itself, but making sure you know how you're going to do it and how you're going to prepare your organization for it too.
Yeah, definitely. If I can add one more thing, consider this as like a move out of a house. Like sometimes packing requires more planning than moving the content from old house to new house, right?
No, Vishal, you have never moved. The way you move is it's the day before, you make sure a truck is coming, and you spend the night and morning furiously packing and telling your friends they can have pizza if they throw your stuff into boxes. It's an overnight thing, and it works 50% of the time, every time.
Well, I guess I have new set of phone a friend to help me move next time.
I was going to say, and Steven's probably exhausted his set of friends at this point because he's, asking him to move all the
Vishal,
time.
I'm going to be out of town when you're moving. I don't know when it is, but I'm going to be out of town and unable to help you. Sorry.
Noted.
Well, Steven, you actually set me up really well because my next myth is around tools. Okay, so there's a myth out there, Vishal, Yogesh, that Microsoft doesn't have any tools to help companies migrate. Is that true?
Absolutely not true. In fact, we offer a comprehensive suite of tools to migrate you from all the key sources, including on-prem and third-party cloud storage providers. And we also offer rich and robust APIs, so our partner ecosystem can complement the niche scenarios that Microsoft cannot offer, which is by design to create an 80/20. So any customer can start planning their migration that we talked a lot about from the Microsoft Admin Center. They don't even need the license tenant. They could use a trial tenant. They could use a test tenant to just start scanning wherever their source is. And as Vishal said, the packing, unless you're Stephen, takes the longest time. And this is something you can start for free from Admin Center. And then you can either finish it right there, or you can start when you're ready as an organization, or you may realize for the 10% of the really niche scenarios, we want to use a particular tool. And that can be influenced by the planning that they can start with our first party tool.
I mean, assessment is super important as part of any migration. And assessment is like, what's our data state look like? What is our information architecture? What kind of distribution of files, are we talking about 1 billion 1 kilobyte files or 1 million 10 meg files? All this comes very handy. And there's really not a lot of disruption when you're scanning your source. You get good insights. You also get some, edge use cases or limitations like, okay, there are at least 5 or 10 users, or maybe even more, who are very unique in terms of what their data estate looks like, where we could run into some challenges. And yeah, as Yogesh said, scanning can be done in parallel while other change management, things are happening. And it really gives you good insights in terms of, gotchas or pitfalls, like what to look for. And that's directly available in our first party offering. And as Yogesh said, we work with a lot of third party providers that we can get into details later, and what those partnership looks like and how they can complement any complex migration.
So, Yogesh, I think you use the F word on this show, which is not, it's dangerous. Did I hear you say free?
I did. And we use it proudly because we want to offer a red carpet to our customers, and we want to make their onboarding journey as easy as possible, which I know is not smooth often. So absolutely, Stephen, not guilty about using it at all.
All right. Free migration tooling. That is awesome. So we've got the free tools that Microsoft provides. Vishal, you briefly mentioned some of the third-party services. Why would a customer consider using third-party versus first-party? And can you tell us a little bit more about that for folks who are interested?
Yeah, great question. And, I, in fact, spend a lot of my time working with customers who cannot use our first-party tool for different reasons. A lot of them are able to, and sometimes they're not. And what that means is they already have a third-party tool that they own for other reasons outside of this specific scope of migration, and their teams are familiar with that. They don't need to go and get security approvals. There are specific features that our first-party tool sometimes do not offer that a customer really needs, which a third-party tool can do that. Look, at this point, and we have said it loud and clear, our partners bring 50% of our content into our platform, and we work very closely with them by partnering them in our migration API side of business. But there are great tools out there in market that our customers have partnership with these ISVs. Some of them are like AvePoint, Drive IQ, what used to be SkySync, CloudFuse, of course, tooling from Quest. And then we have some specialized ECM partners like Exilio, Preventec, and customers also use ShareGate across the board. A lot of source to destination migrations, things like that. BitTitan as well. So and again, this is just a short list. We have more, but the statement I want to make here is we are in this together. Customers want this to be seamless, irrespective of what tool they want to use. And we work with these ISVs very closely to make sure we deliver a joint success for our customers collectively.
Absolutely. And every time we have launched a new first-party tool, we have grown the total size of the pie instead of taking up the pie. And we have consistently seen that whenever we add a particular scenario, there is an equivalent growth in the ISV side as well. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be, and that's by design as well. We want to empower our customers who want to get started and offer them an easy access and again a free functionality. But at the same time, we empower them and encourage them to use whatever that works their need. And when they choose ISV, it reflects a lot on how powerful their tool is, rather than this versus that. So
yeah,
right, kudos to those. Yeah.
Sorry, you've prompted a very important question, and I need to borrow some special effects for a moment.
Yeah.
What type of pie? What type of pie is migration?
So you want me to put a label on migration pie?
I want to know what type of pie the migration is. I'm zooming in so you understand. I want pie. Is it apple pie? Is it pumpkin pie? What type of pie are we making here?
Pumpkin pie?
I'm good with that choice.
I was just going to say, I love the names of all these third-party ISVs that we're partnering with. They have such cool names. They should be like giant robots, like Bit Titan and Cloud Fuse, and like they just they have awesome names.
Dude, that's 30% of my job, Arvind. You're making me go look for a new job now. Come on, don't kill my livelihood.
No, not at all. No. I love the names, and I love that this pie, whether it's pumpkin or apple, is big enough for everyone, is what I would say. Yeah. So with that, Yogesh, you talked about like going to the M365 admin center to get started and, kicking the tires that way. Let's say I, did this over the weekend, because maybe that's something I do over the weekend. And I'm ready to take the next step. Like, what happens? Do I pick up the phone and call you or Vishal, and Vishal shows up in a suit? Or like, how do I take the next step here?
To get started, Arvind?
Yeah, after I've gotten through the admin center.
Yeah, so if you're a new tenant, we have baked the migration as part of your setup. And once you're done setting up, let's say you created a few set of users, the first thing you will see is migrate. And we ask you for where you're coming from. And based on, that, whether it's on-prem or whether it's a third-party cloud storage provider or it's an exchange or some other mailbox, you can choose where you're coming from. And then the next thing you do is you connect to the source. If it's a cloud connection, it's obviously browser-based. If it's on-prem, you will need to install an agent so you can talk to your on-prem environment. And we strive to make that experience as easy as possible. So again, that accidental admin, the teacher helping this migration should be able to get to the next step. And then you have your inventory of the environment, which lets you, plan your next step. And then in the happy path scenario, you should be able to just start your migration and copy your first bits and get a sense of this whole process. So pilot is the first step usually customers do, and we highly encourage it. It not only familiarizes them with this experience, but it also gives them some sense of maybe throughput, like how long would the particular drive took them to migrate, and then they can start planning it. So that's really the next step. Based on the complexity, they often reach out to Fast Track, which is our Microsoft's benefit for customers for a particular size. So, and otherwise they will reach out to Vishal, and then he will handhold them with the next step. Vishal, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think I just want to make clear, customers with 150 seats or more are definitely eligible for Fast Track benefits. Customers can also work with partners as well in case they don't get that benefit, and their partners. Our MSP ecosystem is fairly large, and we're really proud to have 15,000 partners at Microsoft. So obviously there's a right fit for every industry segment. And yeah, as Yogesh said, there's tooling that's available. Obviously we spend a lot of time on the enterprise side, and so there's obviously approvals and process and protocols that kick in enterprise space, including enterprise architecture forum and things like that. But once all this gets cleared, then migration scanning and assessment is a breeze for sure. And then obviously planning will help move the users in waves and eventually get through the finish line.
Now, Vishal, Arvind and I pride ourselves on making sure this podcast is, he already knows where I'm going. We pride ourselves on being a complete resource. So you mentioned there are 15,000 partners we work with.
15.
Feel free to just start listing them, and we'll wait for you to finish all 15,000.
I will go for it. And actually, I started and I just finished with the speed of light.
Oh, very tricky. So we've talked about a bunch of migration myths here. We've talked about the process and the features that are out there. What other resources are available online if I'm interested in migration and I want to go learn more?
Yeah, so ak.ms/migrate to M365 is a great place to start for all content migration. And once you are in that, it will point you to relevant resources. And obviously, your admin center is a great place to learn about these tools as well.
Yeah, and of course, between myself, Yogesh, and other product managers, we are usually there at all Microsoft or key partner events. Of course, there's one coming in 2 weeks. We will have a session on migration, but we will also have customers presenting their stories. There's at least 4 customers that will be presenting, like where they were 18 months back and how they have planned this and assessed it all well, and they're all done or they're in flight. And so I think there's always good resources available between offline content, online content, events, things like that. And yeah, Microsoft Fast Track is a great way to start. We obviously have documentation at Microsoft Learn, and obviously our published document support docs as well. So, but if enterprise customers should definitely reach out to their account team, so does SMC with the digital specialist, and there's a lot of content online. So there's a lot of people, partners in the ecosystem to help.
Cool. And of course, if you can't get any of those resources to work for you, we will include Vishal's personal cell phone number in the show notes. He's available 24/7, so make it happen.
Oh man, I feel like we could talk about migration for a long time. I mean, even though it's a very technical area and it's a very important area, I feel like to me, it's also a very interesting and fascinating area as well. We want to say thank you so much to our guests, Vishal and Yogesh, for attending today and humoring us with all of our jokes and all of our fun. If people want to know more about you or they want to reach out to you, Vishal and Yogesh, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Yeah, I mean, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn, of course, linkedin.com/in/Vishal Lodha, Vishal Lodha, one word. I am also, as I said, a part of our OneDrive customer office hours, which is a public forum that any customer can join. It happens on a monthly basis and co-hosted by our colleagues from marketing and product management. And so, yeah, between those forums and LinkedIn, I'm available to help and facilitate any migration conversations and making sure customer gets the best ROI from their M365 investments.
Absolutely. Yeah, and same thing for me. I'm active on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Yogesh, RATNA, part of my last name. That's my handle for LinkedIn. And as a product management team, we actively review any feedback we receive from the admin center. So customers who have feedback, they can write to us through that channel as well, in addition to everything that Vishal said, because we read that. And if you leave your email, we actually reach out to you almost every single time. So that's a pretty efficient way to reach to any of us.
Yeah, as always, make sure to tag your feedback in the admin center with #SyncUp so we know where the feedback came from. All right. If you want to learn more about OneDrive and get the latest and greatest, you can check out our usual resources. There's the blog at aka.ms/OneDrive/blog. As Arvind mentioned at the top, we've got our newsletter at aka.ms/OneDrive/join. You can find myself at LinkedIn at srice08, and Arvind Mishra is Arvind Mishra1.
As always, we've enjoyed hearing from you over the last couple of months, like you, our listeners, and you can reach us at Twitter at at OneDrive. And if you got questions for us, we do answer them. So just tag it with hashtag SyncUp, and you can visit our page for links, resources, and more at aka.ms/syncup.
Yeah, special this time because we are obviously video podcast. Leave comments below and we'll try and catch them there as well. You can also send us questions directly by emailing syncupquestions@microsoft.com. Don't forget to subscribe to SyncUp wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoy SyncUp or find it useful, tell your friends. Word of mouth is the best way to get people engaged and help us grow the show. And if you're curious about other Microsoft podcasts, check out aka.ms/Microsoft/podcasts. As always, a huge thanks to Lisa for making this podcast possible.
Thanks for listening to SyncUp. We've been your hosts, Arvind and Steven, and we're going to catch up with you next month.
Have a great time.